U-37 Beacon Plumbing had the fastest qualifying on Friday at over 158 miles per hour. Saturday, Dave Vilwalk and the Elam stepped up the competition, going over 161 miles per hour. But the story of the day was the ride Dustin Eccles took in the G17 as he flipped up and over the Columbia River. Heat 1A was a deck-to-deck battle with Elam just nosing out Jimmy Cooper in the U3. And 1B was taken by the Oh Boy Oberto when the Beacon Plumbing was disqualified for a fuel violation. With 4 more heats to go before the finals, it should be anyone's race to win.
You're watching Rumble on the River, presented by Yakima Regional Medical and Cardiac Center. Live on KNDU TV, Richland, Tri-City, KNDO TV, Yakima, Ellensburg, KHQ, Digital 6.3, Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, and broadcast worldwide with live streaming video at KNDO.com and KNDU.com. Rumble on the River TV coverage is presented by Yakima Regional Medical and Cardiac Center. The Pit Cam is brought to you by Area Code Cellular. The Legends of Racing are brought to you by Yakima Nation Legends Casino. Our Inside Racing Reports brought to you by Chiefs RV. And Hydro Flashbacks brought to you by HydroInsider.com.
And good morning, everybody. We do have a bit of a delay. We've got wind on the river right now, some whitecaps as well. Mark Allen along with Steve Montgomery. We're hearing gusts of 30 miles an hour and a hold of about 30 minutes. We were scheduled for Heat 2A at 11:05. Now looks like 11:35. Steve, whitecaps and hydros don't go together.
No, but this race course really does handle wind very well, and optimistically and completely unofficially, I can tell you the conditions here are pretty good. I think that half-hour delay will be more than enough to get the river settled down. There is one team in the pits, however, delighted with this delay because they are literally standing around watching glue dry. Yesterday, the FormulaBoats.com 2, that's one of the former Budweisers, driven by Mike Allen, the sensational rookie out of New Orleans, Louisiana, tore the bottom off the boat. It was one of those break the propeller, suffer a lot of damage things. That normally means about a week of work. This team decided to try to fix it. They went to Seattle for parts and actually brought with them a couple of former Budweiser crew guys. We heard that Mike Campbell and John Reinberger might have been on the 8 o'clock plane last night and spent the entire night helping that team fix this boat. We are hoping it'll be ready, and our Scott Reister, our pit reporter, who's done a great job for us so far this weekend, talked earlier to driver Mike Allen on how the repairs were coming. Let's see what he had to say.
Thanks. We're here with Mike Allen, the current points leader in the ABR season, but you guys obviously have had a lot of work to do. Tell me what's been going on with your boat.
Yeah, we, since the heat yesterday when we ripped out the bottom because of a blade that we threw, we had to replace the strut that you can see back here.
Let's go this way, come on.
The strut, which is right here, the shaft log, which is further up in the bottom of the boat, it ripped that out. It split the gearbox in two. We basically changed out about an 18-inch wide section, about 3.5 feet long, on the entire bottom of the boat, which is honeycomb aluminum. So everything there was replaced. The rudder bracket itself and the rudder were all broken. We had to have those re-welded. We had people fly in last night. We had parts flown in last night. And just a huge effort by our team who has not slept a wink. And they're just, they're running on empty right now.
Brand new propeller, I see. Is this flown in as well?
Nope, we had the props in the truck. It's just not our best prop combination. So when we do make it out there, it's going to be with what we got.
And the status right now, what do you guys expect to be ready to go, and how will that affect what you guys can do as far as winning the Atomic Cup this weekend?
You know, we're going to play it by ear. The whole thing we're waiting on right now is for this glue to dry. It's imperative that that glue sets and does what it needs to do. Otherwise, we'll take a chance on doing the same thing and ripping the bottom of the boat out again.
Let me see those hands. You got some cuts and scrapes? Or pretty clean, huh?
Not a whole lot. They let me pick up parts. That's about it.
Well, he is the only one in the entire crew that actually did get some sleep last night. They figured he better be awake. He's the one driving the machine. We'll be staying with this story the rest of the way. But for now, back to you guys in the booth.
Okay, thank you, Scott. We are watching and waiting, and that 35 minutes is going to be of a big help. You know, normally if they say it's watching glue dry, that's boring, but for these guys, it's not.
The Atomic Cup happens to be the 5th of 7 races in the ABRA circuit. We want to get you caught up to speed so far this season on what's happened so far leading up to this point.
Look at this! Second place, folks. Here it comes.
The season started off perfect for Dave Villwock driving in Eric Elstrom's U1 Miss Elam Plus. He won at Evansville and at Madison, Indiana, beginning 2 for 2 and leading in the points. The Madison race unkind to Steve David, who spun around in this crash. He would be okay. After Mike Allen won at Valleyfield, Quebec, it was time for the Gold Cup. With Villwock resting due to a crash the week before, the race belonged to Jean Theoret in the U37, the first ever Gold Cup win for the longtime driver.
Chiefs RV brings you Inside Racing.
Though a rookie on the Unlimited Tour in 2006, Mike Allen joins the circuit as a 3-time inductee into the American Powerboat Association's Hall of Champions. For the last 18 years, Allen has won national and international championships in K-Racing Runabout, Super Stock, and 5-liter classes. Allen was given the chance to drive the U5 during testing at the Nashville race in 2005.
With the chief referee. Tell me exactly what the process is and what we're waiting on to get the racing started here.
Well, right now, because of the wind that's out on the course, the chief referee, Don Malillo, has been out there, and he's determined that at this point it's a little too rough for the boats to go out there. It's a safety issue. So we're hoping that the wind will die down in the near future and we can go racing. Right now we're on about a half-hour delay.
Is that a call you're going to make in another half hour? Do you just have to reassess the situation? What's the process there?
They're up on the judges' stand right now, and they're assessing the situation all the time. They're always going through it, and they're looking at the water and hoping that we get a window where we can put the boats in the water and go racing.
Kind of point out the water right here. Over here, it looks okay. Is it worse a little later on in the course, and does this just get magnified when the boats actually get out there and start racing?
Exactly. The bad part of it is out at the top of turn 2. That's where the most of the wind is coming through the course and making it tough on the boats. And once the boats go out there and start churning up the water with all the chop and everything, it does magnify it, make it a lot worse.
All right, Barry, thank you for the information. So they'll be waiting as long as they have to. Hopefully, maybe in a half hour, we will get the start of the Atomic Cup underway.
Well, the conditions yesterday were a little better than today, but I can tell you, Mark, right now where we are at start-finish, which is obviously about halfway up the race course, things really look pretty good. There is a rough spot we're hearing about up in the turn to our left where the wind tends to build up. It's rougher there. The boats have run up the backstretch into the wind, and I think, Mark, they want to wait for it to settle down just a little more up there before they let us go racing.
In the meantime, we had 2 heats run yesterday, heats 1A and 1B, and let's take a look at what happened yesterday in heat 1A.
We are a minute 40 seconds away from the start of Heat 1A as racing gets underway here in the Tri-Cities, the 2006 Atomic Cup. Let's set the field for you. We have 7 boats set to go, led by a familiar face, Mark.
Dave Villwock in the U1, the defending Atomic Cup champion, the Miss Elstrom Elam Plus.
Kevin Aylesworth, his first time driving an Unlimited here in the Tri-City. He is a rookie out of San Diego, California. He will be driving the boat known here as Area Code Cellular, the U21.
And Mike Allen, a bright red boat. You might recognize that. It's a former Budweiser, the U7 FormulaBoats.com. Mike's a rookie from New Orleans.
But currently leading the national high points. Terry Troxell being shown here as the driver of the U13. We don't know if that's the case. We think it's J. Michael Kelly in the boat. We'll correct that for you if we're wrong.
Jimmy King in the U3, the only piston-powered boat in our fleet, the Conover Insurance.
Looking at Dave Villwock's boat on the backstretch, here is
there's Jimmy.
A familiar face, Jimmy King. Picked up a sponsor this morning for the turbocharged Allison-powered U3. Jeff Bernard, in his 2nd year of racing, still doesn't have a full season under his transom. Been racing outboards for a long time, as you can see. He'll be in the U99 Lake Ridge Paving.
And we're about 20 seconds away from the start, Steve. It looks like we've got, I can't tell whether it's Jimmy King coming up on the inside. It looks like it is.
Jimmy King has the inside.
He has the inside.
Right next to him is the Formula Boats with Mike Allen, but the leader is Jeff Bernard out ahead. He had to slow down a little bit, actually. Now Allen makes a move. Now Bernard puts the hammer down, and he's going to be the leader at start-finish.
As they come across, Jeff Bernard leads them. Dave Villwock just outside of him to the right, but Mike Allen and Jimmy King on the inside of him as well. So we've got the lead boat about 3 lanes out, and they are headed to turn number 1.
And I think I was wrong. I think it was the yellow and green boat that was leading, and that would be J. Michael Kelly. Oh, Jimmy King got very high in the red piston-powered boat. He was on the inside, used that to his advantage, and he will be the leader the first time up the backstretch with piston power. It's Jimmy King.
Jimmy King, and then Mike Allen, the FormulaBoats.com, too. He is chasing Jimmy King down. Dave Villwock hidden in the rooster tail. We're looking at Jimmy King in that piston-powered U3 Conover Insurance halfway up the backstretch. This is a boat that ran a 161-mile-an-hour lap. And, Steve, as they come to the entrance at turn 2, it's a dead heat between our second and third place boats.
That is Dave Villwock pulling up on the outside in the bright orange Elam Plus. As they turn toward us now, you're going to see all 3 of them. That's Jimmy King in the right of your picture with piston power. Now the 2 boats off to the left that will just come into your picture now. Look at Villwock in the orange boat. He is coming hard on the outside, and he's chasing Jimmy King into turn 1.
Jimmy King still in the lead as they head to turn 1. Dave Villwock has chosen the outside lane in a couple of races already this season. He thinks he can chase everybody down, but Jimmy King still has the lead. You're looking at him, and there comes Dave Villwock on the outside of him. He's closed down now. He's only in about lane number 3. He's chasing down Jimmy King as they come through the turn, and Mike Allen has fallen back now a full rooster tail, and it looks like he got a little wet. He's slowing down halfway up the backstretch. It's Jimmy King, and on the outside, Dave Villwock.
Mike Allen got in between boats, and I believe he did get washed down in the turn, so the FormulaBoats.com has been hit with a rooster tail and is dead in the water on the backstretch, but we have a good 2-boat race. You are looking at Jimmy King in the piston-powered U3 Conover Insurance. Now, as he turns toward you, you will see off to his right the bright orange Elam Plus of Dave Villwock. There he comes. We have a 2-boat race still. It is Villwock chasing Jimmy King at the end of lap 2.
Lap number 2 with Jimmy King now a full rooster tail lead, but Dave Villwock is pulling ground on him as they come down the front straightaway. Second place at the end of lap 2, Dave Villwock, and now the field is very, very well strung out. Jeff Bernard is dead on the backstretch as well, but we look at the boats go into turn number 1. Jimmy King on the outside, Dave Villwock, or rather Jimmy King on the inside, Dave Villwock on the outside. They're dead even as they come off that turn, and they've got traffic ahead of them.
They are coming up on Chris Bertram, driving an Unlimited for the first time. He was back there where he was supposed to be in the trailer position, minding his own business, and now the boat race is going to surround him as the 2 leaders go up the backstretch. Look at this picture, side by side. The red boat is piston powered, Jimmy King. The orange boat is Dave Villwock in the Elam Plus, and they go by Bertram. Hopefully he moved out and gave him room. I think he did, because they got by him okay. This is going to be a drag race down to the finish here at the end of lap 3.
On the inside, Jimmy King, a very tight turn. You saw him stick in lane 1, and they've got Dave Villwock on his hip. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Dave Villwock puts the foot down across the finish line, checkered flag. You won the Miss Elstrom Elam Plus, and Dave Villwock second place, less than a rooster tail behind is Jimmy King in the Conover Insurance.
It was a drag race down to the finish line. The piston power not able to keep up with the turbine boat as Villwock put the hammer down on the outside and flew that orange boat to victory here in Heat 1A. It is way, way back to the third place boat, which is on the backstretch right now. Running in third place is Kevin Aylesworth, and he is 3/4 of a lap behind. We've had some attrition here that we should run down for you. The white boat, Chris Bertram, which was just lapped by the leaders, is running in 4th place, Mark, because he's still running, and we've lost a couple.
And we lost J. Michael Kelly in the U13, the Acura of Bellevue. The Lake Ridge paving went down dead in the water as well. But we're looking at Kevin Aylesworth coming off the final turn and heading down for a 3rd place finish in that beautiful gold and black U21 area code cellular.
He goes by start-finish now, and he goes by a dead in the water J. Michael Kelly, who has lost his cowling somewhere, which sometimes indicates that he got in a rooster tail as well. At any point, he did not finish the heat and will not score any points. Jimmy King will, the boat coming down the straightaway now. You're looking at your winner, which is Dave Villwock. We have to figure out what happened to the FormulaBoats.com. I think he's floating at the far right end of the backstretch. So he was not able to recover. Quite often when you're washed down like that, you're able to get the turbine re-spooled and get back up and running. But he was not able to, and that will hurt the weekend already for the young man who came in here as a rookie leading in national high points. You're looking at J. Michael Kelly right now.
If we're able to look right behind the cockpit, part of his engine cowling is smashed down right in back of the cowling. It's a little hard to see at this angle, but when he was broadside to our position, position here. He's right in front of us. He took some water and it broke that cowling into several pieces, and now as the boat starts to spin just a little bit in the current, you can see the engine is uncovered, but there's a piece of yellow plastic right there. You can see it right there, sticking straight up from just above the air scoop, where the air scoop would have been.
We can tell you that's not the kind of stuff you can do by yourself. He had to have some help. He either got into a rooster tail, perhaps lost control a little bit, or somebody crossed over in front of him. If there were any calls made, we will be hearing about those. So there is a celebration already underway down in the pit area. Our guy, Scott Reister, is down there. And, Scott, if you head for the winning team's end of the dock, we'll throw it down to you when you're ready.
Yeah. We'll go to Scott whenever he lets us know he's ready. We're still looking at the U-13 Acura of Bellevue. Scott, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Here with Rick Swanson, crew member of the Dave Villawak-driven Miss Elam Plus. You had the fastest time in qualifying today, but are you surprised at all about how well it ran in this first heat?
Oh, not really. You know, we set the boat up for the race conditions of what we were going to have out here, and, you know, Dave just drove it, you know, fantastic as normal. I mean, kept us out of trouble and, you know, just put the boat in a position to win. So
now that you've got this first heat win, what is the plan for the rest of the heats? Do you still try to push it as hard as you can, or just give you some breathing room the rest of the way?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously we're down on national points, and we need to win as much as we can and qualify as high as we can at the, you know, Seattle and San Diego. So, you know, we're going to be out, you know, trying to get first place every time we put the boat on the water, because we got to have the points.
All right, Rick Swanson, crew member of the Dave Villawak-driven Miss Elam Plus. Now back to you guys.
Thank you, Scott. And if Dave gets back to the dock here in the next few seconds, you can grab him as well. He had to come from behind Mark Allen.
He sure did. We're looking right at him. Just the last 100 yards or so, Dave Villawak put the hammer down as they came off the final turn. Jimmy King didn't have quite the acceleration that Dave did right then, even though he was on the inside. He made a great turn. He was right next to that yellow buoy, but he couldn't hold Dave off in the last couple hundred yards to the finish line. So Dave Villawak, your winner, the Miss Alstrom Elam Plus. Second place goes to Conover Insurance.
Jimmy King led the first two laps.
Well, now we know what happened to Mike Allen, Steve Montgomery. He lost a prop.
So a repair there. And another one, by the way, we talked about the cowling on J. Michael Kelly's boat, the 13. That crew spent the night forming a new cowling out of fiberglass. So the first time we see it, it might not be complete with the right paint job, but hopefully that team will be back with us. So we had some racing yesterday, Christine and Scott, and I have to tell you, from an amateur weatherman's point of view, things are not looking bad up here. I think we'll have racing for you soon.
Tens of thousands line the river in 2004, already knowing the storyline. After 40 years of racing, it was one last chance to see the Miss Budweiser on the water. Dave Villawak and Miss Bud did not disappoint. After winning Heat 1A on Saturday, he came back to win 2A and 3A on Sunday. But Mitch Evans and Vacationville were also perfect, winning Heat 1B, 2B, and 3B.
We're looking forward for the final heat here at the end of the day. I think we'll have something for the other red boat down there.
The showdown turned out to be a runaway. Villawak was the first to the all-important turn one. He came out fine, but neither Evans nor J.W. Myers in the Lumar did. Lumar was done for the day with damage. Vacationville penalized a lap for contact.
Went in there, and all of a sudden, it seemed like out of nowhere, just bam. But, you know, with such limited visibility, you know, I'm not going to point fingers at anybody.
I knew it was going to be tight, but I felt like we had enough room to all get through there. But J-Dub was really close to me and ended up just ricocheting off the sponson.
That left Miss Bud alone. Villawak would win his 4th race on the Columbia, Miss Bud's 12th, but the first since 1999.
I want to make Bernie proud, you know, and this is a place that Bernie loved and a place that he felt was at home to him, and you know, I thought if we could win another race this year, this would be a good one to do it.
I get put in an interesting position as I get to run every race this year like it was my last.
And Miss Bud went out in style. It was Villawak's last here on the red boat, but he'd be back again next year and holding a trophy again.
This Hydro Flashback is brought to you by HydroInsider.com. Chiefs RV brings you Inside Racing.
Long known as one of the nicest people in the sport, Steve David finally won his first championship in 2005, taking the ABRA Drivers' Championship in his 5th year as driver of the Oh Boy Oberto. David has 4 career wins to his credit, including the 2001 Madison Regatta, and the 2005 Evansville Freedom Festival.
We did have some racing yesterday, Mark.
We did, and before we get to that, I just, we ought to point out, too, that these officials are very good at rearranging the schedule. They can move things around, and things come out of the schedule that would block the way for some more hydro racing. So we have a long ways to go today, and let's go back to yesterday and take a look at Heat 1B. We are 3 minutes away from Heat 1B of the Atomic Cup, and we've got 6 boats out on the course. So let's run through who will be in Heat 1B. Steve?
J.W. Myers gets a new ride. He's driving for the USA Racing Partners out of Las Vegas, and a former Miss Budweiser racing here as Solutions Plus, the U10.
The U100, Greg Hop.
Oh, dear.
We are 3 minutes away from Heat 1B of the Atomic Cup, and we've got 6 boats out on the course. So let's run through who will be in Heat 1B. Steve?
J.W. Myers gets a new ride. He's driving for the USA Racing Partners out of Las Vegas, and a former Miss Budweiser racing here as Solutions Plus, the U10.
The U100, Greg Hop, Todd Haas, American Dream. Greg has a long history of unlimited hydroplane racing, and along with his dad in unlimited lights and the new G-boat class as well.
Team manager of the very hot new Formula Boats team is Mike Weber out of Dawsonville, Georgia, driving formulaboats.com, the U5, the all-red boat. It'll look like a Budweiser on camera.
U2.25, Dr. Ken Muscatel, the world's fastest forensic psychologist. His boat is sponsored by the Graham Trucking folks.
And you'll see the very familiar red, white, and green paint job aboard Madison, Indiana's Oh Boy Oberto, and the popular driver Steve David out of Lighthouse Point, Florida.
And our 6th boat on the race course will be Jean Thioret in the U37 Beacon Plumbing. Lots of yellow and lots of red on that boat as well, Steve. As the boats start to head down to this Blue Bridge end of the turn, we're still a minute and a half plus away from getting ready for this start. So they're down there starting to score up already.
We've seen some very interesting milling as Jean Thioret in one of the 2 yellow boats. His boat is a brighter yellow with a little bit of red on it. That's the Beacon Plumbing boat. The other one that is a darker yellow and all yellow is Solutions Plus. That's the boat out of Las Vegas, driven by J.W. Myers. But Thioret was all over the river. He made a big wide sweep and came way outside of the outer marker, then drove across the bow of a couple of boats to get back to the inside. So we had some interesting scoring up going on. Now the 1 minute mark is approaching, and we're way out of shape, Mark. We got some boats that need to get lined up here on the backstretch.
We're looking at J.W. Myers. You saw him just cut through the infield, and now he's streaking down the front straightaway, looking at some of the boats going very slow on the backstretch. Jean Thioret, he's followed by the U100. We're now looking at Mike Weber in the U5 formulaboats.com as he pulls up as well, and he's going to be pulling up on side the Oh Boy Oberto. You'll see him in the picture in just a second. And here comes J.W. Myers. He's made his way all the way around. We'll see who gets that inside lane. It's going to be a little bit crowded right now as they come to the entrance pin of that top turn.
Right now, Greg Hop has his blue boat in lane 1 if nobody gets inside him. Thioret wanted lane 1 so badly he was way up, way early, had to slow down, and may have been crowded out of there. It appears that Hop is going to have control now in the U100 in lane 1. You see Mike Weber swinging wide in that bright red Formula Boats and the rest of the field in between. It's going to be a beautiful sight now as 5 boats are lined up side by side. Thioret is charging in the middle as we count it down. 2, 1, 0. A legal start. Greg Hop, the leader at the start of Heat 1B.
Greg Hop first across the line. Jean Thioret is second across the line as the boats head down into that Blue Bridge turn. And J.W. Myers got caught, and he is way back in the field, but it's John Theoret as they hit that first turn, Steve, and on the inside is Greg Hopp, but John Theoret looks like he's got the lead as they come off the turn.
Theoret in the Beacon Plumbing just drives around the blue boat. That's a great riding again, a former Miss Budweiser. It was changed a couple of years ago to its current configuration. We got a great race back in second place between Hopp on the inside in the blue boat and Steve David, who has the Oh Boy Oberto running beautifully. It's actually David right now in second place, but they're going to be neck and neck as they chase Theoret.
1, 2, and 3, and they're all into the turn at this point. Theoret with a full rooster tail lead. We watch him come through the turn. Very close behind him. Now on the outside of him is the Oh Boy Oberto, and on the inside of his rooster tail is Greg Hopp. Oberto gets a great turn, and on the outside of them as they come by is Mike Weber in the FormulaBoats.com, and he has taken over third place as they come to the end of lap number 1.
We could not see Mike Weber in the red boat on the backstretch. He was behind the rooster tails. He was actually right up in that fray, but look at Theoret, that yellow boat that won the Gold Cup very recently for new owner Billy Shoemaker, is a yellow rocket on the straightaways, and he is leaving them behind. John Theoret, the French-Canadian Rookie of the Year last year in 2005, is our leader here in Heat 1B. Steve David now has settled into second place in the Oh Boy Oberto, and Mark, that's as good as that old boat's looked for a long time.
That is an old boat. 1988 it was built, but it is running hot, and John Theoret walking the boat back sponson to sponson, and now we'll go back to second place. That's the Oh Boy Oberto. Third place is the FormulaBoats.com, and we'll look at Greg Hopp coming through in fourth place, but John Theoret at the top of the turn on the west end of the race course has this race well in hand, and Steve David now in second place, but here comes John Theoret down the front straightaway, Steve, to end lap number 2.
End of lap 2 for Theoret. He gets the white flag, 1 lap to go, and he has about a 3 rooster tail lead over Steve David in that red, white, and green Oh Boy Oberto, and then it's back about 1.5 rooster tails to Mike Weber in the FormulaBoats.com. Greg Hopp has settled into fourth place in the blue boat, but he is on the inside, and he may be able to reel in the red boat running way out in lane 4.
Theoret's got that boat up a little bit as he goes through the rough water in that Blue Bridge turn. You saw the sponsons come up just a little bit, but safely off the turn, and now streaking up the backstretch on his third of 3 times around here in Heat 1B. John Theoret leading the field now by several rooster tails. The race well in hand for him.
You're looking at a race boat doing almost 200 miles per hour up the Pasco side. This boat lost its cowling and wing in the final heat of the Gold Cup. At that point, the ride generally goes away. Theoret just put the hammer down, drove it like the Grand Prix boats that he grew up in, and won the Gold Cup impressively in part of a race boat. And now, Mark, here he comes to take the checkered flag. John Theoret will win Heat 1B at the Atomic Cup.
There he goes across the start-finish line. John Theoret, the U-37 Beacon Plumbing, the winner of Heat 1B. Right behind him is Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto, second place for Heat 1B. Now it's going to be a ways back, and we've got quite a race. Greg Hopp on the inside. Mike Weber pulls him off the corner, but they're almost dead even. It will be Mike Weber by about 2 boat lengths as they cross the finish line. Mike Weber in third, Greg Hopp in fourth, and there comes J.W. Myers in fifth place across the line.
So that's the way they will finish. Score 400 points for Jean Theoret, the very, very lead-footed French-Canadian driving for new owner Billy Shoemaker. There's a name that you Veteran Hydro fans will know well. The boat is now the U-37. It used to be Bill Worster's Lumar window film. It's now the Beacon Plumbing, winner of the Gold Cup and winner of Heat 1B here. So give them 400 points, and we'll run the scoring down for you after we go down to the pit area, and Scott Reister to get a word with that crew and driver.
All right, here was John Theoret, just took Heat 1B. I know you had a lot of damage in Detroit winning that Gold Cup, but I guess things worked themselves out today, huh?
Yeah, the team worked real hard, all week before this event here, and thank God we won this race again, and the Beacon Plumbing boats are going good. The water was pretty rough, especially in the first corner, but we got a good start, and that was it right there.
A lot of boats here. I know there were 7 in the first heat, 6 in this heat. What did you think of the competition and kind of being out there on a crowded race course?
Well, it's exciting, it gives you a prelude to the final, because the final is going to be a 6-boat final. So it's always good to have all these boats there and put on a good show for the fans.
Is this shaping up to be a Dave Villwock, Jean Theoret showdown, or is it too early to say that?
I think it's too early. There's plenty of good boats out there, and I'd say there's at least 4 or 5 good boats that can win this race here, so we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Jean Theoret just took Heat 1B. We'll see what he does the rest of the way. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. A great start to the weekend, the Atomic Cup. And Steve, let's run down the finish order.
Theoret picks up 400 points for that first place win. A great start for his weekend. And Steve David, the old boy Alberto, an impressive second place and 300 points. Third place went to Mike Weber in the formulaboats.com, 225 points. Then it's 169 for Greg Hopp in fourth place. Had the inside and the lead at the start, but just couldn't hang on to it. J.W. Myers in the Solutions Plus, we'll see more out of that yellow boat. Picked up 127 points. And the doctor, Ken Muscatel, 95 points, running sixth in Heat 1B. And that's the way they finished here in Heat 1B of the Atomic Cup.
Well, we did find out later that John Theoret had a fuel violation. Not just a violation, Steve, but a flagrant fuel violation. So the points that he thought he got for 400 first-place points, he didn't get. He didn't get any points, and Steve David was the winner of that heat.
So the points you see on your screen, those of you who did as I suggested yesterday and kept score at home, if you gave Jean Theoret 400, take them away. Give them to Steve David, the old boy Alberto, and he is with our Scott Reister right down in the pit area. Scott?
Well, actually, you can see the crew hurry up and waiting. A whole lot of nothing left to do because Steve David and his team is just ready to go. I hear the latest is the tentative 12:30 with the underline being under 12:30, the air show coming up. What is the latest with you guys? Is it really this calm, cool, and collected right now?
Oh, it is. The Alberto's ready. The guys did everything to the Alberto last night to get it ready, so it's ready to go. And what you see is a high level of intelligence taking place, but not physically. This is happening internally, and this is what gives me my confidence to drive the Alberto to another win.
We're here right outside your truck. We're in our little tent where you guys can just kind of camp out and get ready. Do you mind this little break? Does it maybe help you get collected, or are you too eager to get out there and get started?
It helps get the butterflies flying in formation. Yeah. But we're ready to go. The crew's ready to go. We want to get out there and put on a show for the fans, but the conditions have to be safe to do that as well.
Now, you're in first place by default, but you got to like how the boats are running, especially after heat. I didn't mean to insult you.
I'm taking them out.
The two sweetest words in the English language, default. You don't mind it, do you?
No, I mean, hey, they're great racers, and 37 had a minor infraction and cost them. Every one of us get caught every once in a while doing that, and they're great racers. We look forward to going out there and racing with them again today.
You've been racing for a while. Does this kind of delay drag itself out, or are you worried that it might kind of push further and further into the day?
Whenever it happens, we're ready to go.
All right, sounds like he is. It'll be a quick driver meeting. He'll be back there. Yeah, we're here with driver Dr. Ken Muscatel as the air show goes above us, making hearing kind of loud, but you guys obviously heard what the deal was inside the driver meeting we just got out of. What will transpire to try to get some racing done on the course today?
Well, I volunteered to go out and run the Graham trucking and see if it's runnable. If I need a heavy cruiser, then you know it's not raceable. It's going to be...
One moment. So you're going to volunteer, and then what happens?
And then if I come back, I count my body parts, if they're all there, maybe we'll race. But it's when we were out there, I ran this morning, it was raceable. When we went out on the boat parade, it was unbelievable. Worst I'd ever seen it by far. Completely unraceable. No one would be able to finish a heat. So if it's manageable, I'll go. Now, that's one boat going. You're going to have 7 boats in the heat out there. The water will get fantastically rough no matter what. But if it's not raceable with 1, it's not raceable with 7.
All right, so you're going to take this experimental trip at 1 o'clock, is that right? And then make a call after that?
Yes, I call it an experiment in terror.
Got it. Well, he is a doctor, so if you have to find your body parts, and you'll be okay, right?
I know. I'm taking inventory now.
Okay. So. All right, well, that is the story. We'll try to see if this race is raceable. And right now we go back to Mark and Steve.
So we'll send the psychoanalyst out to psychoanalyze our race course, and maybe he can have a little talk with the west turn up here, Mark, and get things settled down.
See if the wind wants to change.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
It takes the wind wanting to change in order to get something done. But Dr. Ken Muscatel has a lot of experience. He's many years on limited hydroplane and then in the smaller boats as well. If anybody can tell what the conditions are and whether they're raceable, he certainly can.
So what you're going to see here, and 12:30 we understand is the time that'll happen, or when this jet exhibition is finished, they want to get him out of the corridor before they send the boat out. You'll see Ken's boat. It's the orange and white U2.25 Graham Trucking. It's a boat that raced here last year under owner Jim Harvey. Ken then, of course, sold his equipment to the group out of San Diego, driven now by Kevin Aylesworth, leased Jim Harvey's boat, so he now has the orange and white U2.25. And Mark, we might point out, this boat is not famous for being the most stable on the race course. And I only mention that because if Ken can handle the water in that boat, then things are looking pretty good.
That's right. So we're maybe waiting to see at least one hydroplane. You know, we keep thinking, hey, it's the wind's died down, everything is looking good, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get another gust of wind. So
the 2.25 will be coming out of the pits, Scott, and you'll be able to see it down where Scott and Christine are as well. One boat. Hey, the way things have gone today, that might be a highlight so far, but we will have one boat on the water, hopefully at about 12:30, 6 or 7 minutes from now. We'll have that and much more for you from the Atomic Cup when we come back, so stay with us.
Cattell is on the river, and he's riding the river pretty good right now. Just came off of that west end turn down the front straightaways. We can see him on camera now just across the start-finish line. Boat looks pretty smooth right now, Steve.
We absolutely saw nothing wrong with that run, but we're not in the race boat trying to go 200 miles per hour. Again, the conditions don't look the same to the drivers as they do to those of us here on the safety of the shore. But the doctor did take the 2.25 gram trucking up the backstretch. It looked very normal from where we saw it, and we really aren't going to know how he feels about this run until he gets back and reports. But right here, Mark, he's looking very much like he would in ideal conditions. He's running into the wind, into the current, and this is what the drivers have been talking about.
That's right. It looks pretty smooth at this point, although he's not going full out at this point either. That's not his top speed, but the boat is just reacting with the water.
Now, right here's a critical point, because as he turns the boat to the right, the wind quarters across the right sponson, creating an actual lift problem on some boats. This one was designed particularly to avoid that problem. But we've seen many, many boats go over up at the west end of this race course when the breeze picked up a little bit. This one probably handles that particular problem better than most. But the doctor appears to be doing just fine. I can't imagine that he'd go back to the pits after this run and say that it's treacherous out there.
Well, you know, it looks like he is going back to the pits right now, so he has done about almost 2 full laps as he came out of the pits. We'll get the word as we can when he gets back into the pit area, gets off the dock, and meets with the ABRA officials. You can see him coasting into the dock area right now.
He ran a lap at 144.624 miles per hour, which is race conditions, certainly. If he did that out here with 5 other boats, he might be taking the checkered flag. In fact, let's score Ken Muscatel as the winner of that heat. And
move on.
Exactly. And Scott Reister, down in the pit area, you'll be talking to a driver who didn't win a heat, but he survived the conditions, and that might be a pretty good story. Hopefully, things went well enough that the doctor will go back and tell his fellow drivers, I think we can do it. Maybe we need to be a little careful, but let's go out on the water and put on a show for the folks here.
We've certainly seen them race in conditions on this river, Steve, that have...
Okay. Let's go down to Scott. He might have some news for us already. Scott?
Well, guys, as you can see, Ken Muscatel pulling in after that practice lap. I heard that he hit about 144.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'll let you know in a minute, Sam.
You're on. About 144 on the practice laps, and I also heard from one race official that they have given this race a green light to go based on what they saw out of the 2.25 gram trucking. Ken Muscatel agreed to volunteer to race this course to prove that it was okay to race, and guess what? The officials deemed that we can race. So it looks like the Atomic Cup will begin shortly as soon as they reorganize the schedule and get things going. But here we see Ken Muscatel getting out of the boat, and thanks to, I could say, his courage, he decided to get out there, and now he's saying it's okay, and based on his speeds and everything else, it looks like this act has saved the day.
Yeah, good to go.
Anything wrong with it? Is it bad? Choppy? How you thought it?
It's wet. It's rough on the back stretch. It's fine. Let's go racing.
Is it rougher than less rough than you thought? You were pretty concerned about it when you...
Better than I thought it was going to be, yeah.
You feel like you can get 6-7 boats out here and be safe?
Yeah, barely, but yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to you. That's the story from down here. Dr. Ken Muscatel able to race, and the officials able to give it an okay. So very shortly, we'll start this Atomic Cup. Guys, back to you.
We are told by the officials that we're going to shoot for a 5-minute gun at 12:50. Ken Muscatel, by the way, is in Heat 2A, Mark, so he's going to make a fairly quick turnaround. If this works, then we'll get. In fact, they're going to leave it up to Ken. If the 2.25 is ready, and we do have to let them get back on the trailer, refuel, and go back in the water, we will shoot the 5-minute gun at 12:50. So, unless things get worse, we got boat racing for you coming up here soon on the Columbia River.
David Williams, Executive Director of the Hydroplane Raceboat Museum. The Hydroplane Museum is a nonprofit 501c3 tax-exempt corporation, very much like the Art Museum or the Symphony or the Zoo or any other heritage organization. The oldest boat that we have in our collection is this boat right here, the Tempo 6, built in 1938. It won the Gold Cup in 1939, 1941, and 1946. And the story of how the three-point hydro was invented is really pretty interesting. In the 1930s, there was a war going on in China, a war between the Japanese and the Chinese. And the Japanese were blockading the Chinese ports. And the Chinese government wanted a boat to help them break the blockade. The Chinese ordered 11 boats, but they only paid for 10. So 10 boats got shipped and 1 got left here in the States. And Ventnor didn't want to lose money on that 11th boat, so he eventually sold it to a boat racer who took it to the Gold Cup race and found out that it was significantly faster than all the other boats at the time. The next evolution was the three-point prop rider, and the slow motion 4 followed by the slow motion 5 were the first 2 really successful prop riding hydroplanes. If you were able to kind of peek inside the slow-mo, it's built a lot more like an airplane than a boat. If you look inside the Tempo, it's definitely a boat. But if you look inside the slow-mo, it borrows an awful lot from airplanes. Slow-mos won the Gold Cup in 50, 51, 52, 53, and 54, 5 years in a row. And at that time, the winner of the race got to determine where the race was held. So when the slow-mo won the race in Detroit in 1950, they brought it out to the West Coast, and we've had hydroplane racing here ever since. When you look at this boat, you can't help but notice the big, beautiful engine there in the engine well. That's a Rolls-Royce Merlin. What really caused the sport to take off in the 50s like it hadn't ever before was the virtually unlimited supply of very cheap and very powerful military surplus engines. The next big step in the evolution of hydroplane racing didn't have a lot to do with the boats themselves, but it had to do with how they got paid for. The boats we've looked at earlier, the Tempo and the Slow-Mo, those were sportsman boats. The Miss Bardall here, the 1958 national champion, is a commercially sponsored boat. And that was a big revolution that took place in the middle half of the 50s. The sport became so popular, the crowds that the sport drew were so huge, that businessmen began to realize, hey, if I put my name on the side of a hydroplane, a lot of people are going to see it, and maybe some of them will buy my product. Another one of the things that really surprises people when they look at our older boats here is that we don't have any seat belts. We don't have the air masks or the canopies that drivers today have. If you look in there, there's just a whole lot of padding and a steering wheel. And that's the only way you stayed in the boat, was holding onto that steering wheel with all your might. This changed in the 1980s when we moved to a honeycomb construction. The boat we're standing in front of now is the 1980 Griffin Budweiser. It's a significant boat for a number of reasons. It was the last hurrah of the piston engine boat. In fact, it won the national championship in 1985, and that was the last time a piston boat ever won the championship. Ron Jones had been talking for years about wanting to build a safety canopy. After looking at the boat at the end of the '82 Columbia Cup, Chip Hanauer and Jim Lucero did something about it. The next year in '83, they took the canopy, or they took the cockpit, lowered it, reinforced it, and strapped Chip in. And Chip was the first one to drive strapped into a hydroplane. After a couple years of doing that, they decided to put a lid over him and give him an oxygen mask. This boat, actually the two boats, the Budweiser here that had the horrible accident with Dean Chenoweth, and the Atlas here, that was the first boat to have a driver strapped in, really changed the course of modern hydroplane racing.